Omega Level Mutants come in all shapes and sizes. Many have abilities that would allow them to single-handedly save the world, or, if they wanted to, just as easily destroy it. X-Men is the genetic offspring of Jean Grey and Scott Summers, but hails from the alternate reality of Age of Apocalypse Earth 295. Nathaniel Grey, being the product of Mr. Sinister, using the genes of Jean and Scott, is pretty much the epitome of what their perfect, all-powerful son, or just offspring in general, could be like. Nate himself also seems to have a psionic connection to his alternate reality self, and kind of alt-reality brother, Cable, as well. Nathaniel Grey is considered beyond Omega because of the sheer level of power he possesses. Like most others on this list that we're going to talk about in terms of just how powerful they are, he also holds the power to warp reality. But he can also do a lot more than that. Although I think if you can warp reality, that's pretty much just like saying you can really just do anything at all. Kind of like having all the superpowers in one, which is pretty much what X-Man is doing here. Do you have a favorite reality warper, or do you just have like a favorite power that you think is like super OP? Let me know in the comments below. Is there anything that's more powerful than reality warping? I think that's one of the top ones for me. Well, I really love super speed too. You can do a lot with that power if you can think fast enough. I feel like we're always sleeping on Jamie Braddock somewhat on these lists, so I'm very happy to be featuring him here for once. We don't talk about him enough, really. Especially because recently Franklin Richards was also kind of taken out and declassified as a mutant in the comics, although thank goodness he's finally back. Franklin, aka Powerhouse, is often considered to be one of the most powerful mutants around, and is also known for his reality warping powers, though both of these characters actually have the power to reality warp. Like I said, reality warping, it's super powerful. Each power set though that we have here when it comes to reality warping is based in usually a different type of reality warping. Now for Monarch, his powers work on a quantum level. Although there are people who can influence Monarch's powers by manipulating his mind, he also is just pretty powerful as someone who can just make things happen and think things into existence basically based on how his powers work. David Haller is the son of Charles Xavier and Gabrielle Haller. As a child, he was scarred from witnessing a brutal, horrific attack while in Beirut, and this caused him to develop a split personality disorder. Each personality that lives within him, and sometimes even without him, is fully independent and exhibits its own mutant ability, meaning that the access that Legion has appears to be almost limitless when it comes to all the different powers that he can at times possess. It's not really his fault that he has a tendency to take things too far, as the damage he does is often caused by, you know, the fact that he has a neurodivergence. When he is able to demonstrate control over his powers, he can actually be quite helpful when he wants to be, even fighting alongside the X-Men and his father Professor X at times. That is, you know, when he's not busy being kinda evil. But when he loses control, his abilities tend to manifest in unpredictable ways. He once blew up an entire facility after losing control, and he also kinda created AOA, so yeah, he's done some pretty crazy things. Isca is a mutant from Morocco. So many of the mutants from Morocco are so powerful, Isca included. Isca's mutant power makes her pretty much undefeatable, I would say, at least in a fight, and possibly when it comes to destroying the world depending on the stakes here. She can never lose. Yep, that's her mutant ability. However, that also seems to mean if she is on the losing side of a battle, she is forced to flip sides. Whether or not she truly even wants to do that, we don't really know. She has to flip because she has to be on the winning side. Isca, I think, has one of the coolest mutant powers that we've seen in quite a while. It's just so creative, it's so unique, but it's so simple, you know? Like other mutants who were meeting Isca for the first time, I was also obsessed with the idea of her power set. Isca being unable to lose means in theory that she could beat pretty much anyone, or I suppose would have to refuse or like somehow evade fighting them were she to risk losing, which is also an interesting element to her power set that I also don't think really gets explored enough, although it is early on in terms of her character. In the Ten of Swords tournament, the first battle that we saw her in was between her and Betsy Braddock, aka Captain Britain, and Betsy was pretty quickly defeated here. That is how powerful Isca is. She just goes up against you and you're gonna lose. Honestly, poor Betsy too. Strong as she might be, she did not stand a chance and she just literally got shattered into pieces. Apocalypse is still one of the most powerful mutants out there. His Omega level power is that of an evolution, meaning there is pretty much nothing that Apocalypse can't adapt to survive through. Over time he gets more and more powerful as well, so the longer he lives, the more unstoppable, in theory, he and his power set will become. Apocalypse has proven just how much of a threat he can be, and all I can say is I'm glad he's currently on the side of Krakoa, or that he was at least recently before Fall of X, as he makes as powerful of an ally as he does a villain, obviously. Apocalypse not only has his mutant power set, but is also very experienced in magics as well. Fun fact. Also, Apocalypse may have never been formally acknowledged as an Omega level mutant in the comics, but I just feel like we gotta count him because, like, he totally seems Omega level, right? So I'm gonna count him. I'll be the one to decide that he's Omega, but if you disagree, let me know why in the comments. He's also come up against other Omega levels and he's beat those people, so like I said, it's like a power scaling thing. I feel like we can count him safely. No? Well, we never really got to know Miranda's codename or even her full name. She was given her very own mutant class. That is how great her power set is. Beast had to create a whole new classification just for Miranda. She is beyond Omega, literally. She only appears in the worst X-Men ever limited series, granted, which by the way is a really great read that I'd recommend you check out if you haven't already. Miranda here is shown to have some reality warping powers, but ones that don't adversely affect space, time, and the multiverse, anything in her reality, or the fabric of the continuum, which is pretty rare. Usually when people mess with reality, it messes stuff up beyond that. There's ripple effects, but with Miranda, there doesn't seem to be. Beast decided to give her the new classification, which would sit above Omega, the name of Omicron, just because he thought it was the most ominous sounding letter of the Greek alphabet. So Omicron level is technically what Miranda is. Omicron level. I think my favorite thing is that although in this universe Miranda is considered to be beyond Omega and could have fixed the world in just basically a snap, she understood why the balance of everything kinda had to be maintained and was very chill and content to just kinda hang out instead of use her powers to fix or ruin the world, as so many reality warpers are prone to try and do, intentionally or unintentionally. Franklin Richards has created more than one universe, including a pocket universe that he used to save a bunch of heroes, including his parents, from the villain Onslaught. And you know what they say, if you can create a universe, you can probably also destroy one too. He has resurrected Galactus, granted after discovering that the universe couldn't really continue without the cosmic being, and he is powerful enough to kill Celestials. But despite all this power, Franklin has often been shown as using his power for the good. Still, the amount of power that he has seems so ludicrous that I would argue he still needs to sometimes be held back simply for this reason, because he just has so much power. Maybe that's why we took away his mutant status for a while in the comics, he's just too OP. As Galactus stated at the end of the history of the Marvel Universe, Franklin Richards is the most powerful mutant ever born, which also makes him one of the most unstoppable and one of the most dangerous mutants out there. Jim Jaspers is a mutant that we do not talk enough about on our mutant lists. He's often a character that falls by the wayside because I suppose he is kind of niche. But when it comes to what he's capable of, he definitely deserves our respect. Of course, Jim Jaspers is another reality warping mutant. You know me, I love my reality warpers. They just really are some of the most powerful out there. So many Omega and beyond Omegas tend to be reality warpers, probably for this reason, which is interesting considering as an Omega you are supposed to be the top of your class in whatever your specific powers are. Of course, there are a lot of approaches and methods when it comes to how mutants can warp reality, which is, I suppose, what makes all those Omega and beyond reality warpers out there distinct and different. While Jim Jaspers hasn't been confirmed as necessarily beyond Omega, just based on what we know him to be capable of, it seems likely that he could also be at that tier. An alternate Jim Jaspers, who is believed to have been weaker than the main continuity version that we have, threatened the entire multiverse at one point with his powers, so he's on a pretty high level. He could definitely destroy the Earth. He could probably destroy the multiverse, let's be real. Vulcan is Gabriel Summers, the youngest Summers brother who had a really messed up childhood, slash kind of honestly no childhood, and who happens to be the most powerful of all the Summers family kids. Scott has his optic blasts and Alex has his energy conversion, but Gabriel has what is possibly a limitless amount of energy manipulation and absorption. He can take in tons of raw energy and just hold it. Or he can channel it into something else, which honestly is pretty crazy. Vulcan has been classified many times as Beyond Omega in the comics by various people, including Rachel Summers. And I think his niece herself would know a thing or two about powerful classifications that are off the charts, considering that she is also one of those people. I really wanted to put Vulcan higher up on this list too, because I just feel like there's so many reality warpers. I knew this list was going to be mostly reality warpers, but Vulcan is just so powerful and he does not get enough hype, I don't think. Now, who could be possibly more Omega, more dangerous than Franklin Richards, Jim Jaspers, and Vulcan? Well, how about another mutant who also has the ability to manipulate both energy, technically, and matter on various levels? We are talking about Mathew Malloy. He accidentally killed Emma Frost using his powers after she hit him and he just shouted stop, which ended up deleting her from existence. Wow. Malloy was kind of just written out of existence, but before that he was known for creating the largest power signature on Cerebro ever in the history of Cerebro. In fact, Professor Xavier was forced to put mental blocks on him just to stop him from accidentally wreaking havoc on the world with his limitless power. He was like, I need to do this just to keep the world intact. Mathew's power comes from another dimension, so like Cyclops, which is why it also appeared to be the inexhaustible kind. However, after Xavier's death, his power's mental barriers started to deteriorate because Xavier was gone, causing him to become very dangerous. Any surge of emotion can trigger his abilities. He once threatened to destroy the entire state of South Carolina with a potential energy blast, and his telepathic and telekinetic abilities are off the charts. He's just one of those people, like, he could just think about it accidentally and he could just destroy the world. You know what I mean? That's about it. I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Until next time, you stay nerdy.